I'm Amy Allen, Vice President of the Westchester County Association, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the latest episode of Business Insights, a new online video series jointly presented by the Westchester County Association and WestFair Communications, who many of you know publish the Westchester and Fairfield County business journals. For the last several months, the Westchester County Association has presented a number of online video programs presenting timely and topical information to our members and the community at large. All of these videos are accessible on demand through our website or our YouTube and Facebook channels. Business Insights is an exciting collaboration between the Westchester County Association and WestFair in order to reach even more people through our mutual networks and communities. Today's show will focus on leveraging the regional media landscape and how you can utilize that to grow and promote your business. In a moment, I will introduce Peter Katz of WestFair, who will host the program, and introduce our expert panelists. But before I do that, I want to take a moment to thank the WCA Platinum Partners, without whose support we could not bring you programs such as this. It is now my pleasure to introduce Peter Katz of WestFair, reporter, writer, copy and video editor, who will serve as the host of our program. Peter, welcome.
Thanks very much, Amy. Pleasure to be with you all today. I am Peter Katz from WestFair Communications, and WestFair publishes the Westchester County Business Journal, Fairfield County Business Journal, WAG Magazine, and a series of electronic online newsletters, which are designed to keep you fully informed of things that are important to you and your business here in Westchester and in Fairfield County. And with me today for our discussion on some very interesting subjects, I think you'll find, are Christina Ray, who is president of Buzz Creators Incorporated, located in Valhalla. Welcome, Christina.
Thanks for having me here today.
And Bob Rosicki, who is someone who I know and work with closely over at WestFair. Bob is the managing editor of WestFair Communications, and he's the guy who is responsible for what gets into print and what gets online in the way of news content. Bob, welcome.
Thank you, Peter.
And what we hope to impart you with today are some inside knowledge that may help you tell your business's story to the general public, may help you get your story across the desk of the editor at newspapers, of the assignment editors at radio and TV stations, and get you coverage that may help get your story told to the public. And Christina, you're in the business of doing this, of helping companies tell their story. Tell us a bit how you package a company's story.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. That's exactly what we do. Our tagline is every business has a story, what's yours? And every business does have their own unique and special story, just like people do. So we look at each business that we start working with, and we find out, their background, why they started the business, what their products and services are, who they're looking to help and work with. And then we create programs, a PR program built around that. So it's really focused on, getting awareness for their business and their brand, and also getting the word out there on their products and services. And a lot of times it's about educating the community about them. And our whole goal is to end up with pitches that make it into print and not into Bob's deleted files.
Well, just how do you do that? When you sit down with a client who has a story they want to tell, they'd like to get some publicity, preferably free publicity. Everyone loves free publicity, of course. But how do you package that so that you can get that story actually out there to the public? What do you have to do to convince the client that you have that you know what you're doing and you know how to put together a package?
Yep, that's one of the things that we do. We keep in mind how busy reporters are. When we've sat at roundtable events with reporters, they've told us that they're getting between 300 and 500 emails a day, which is a lot. So you really want to stand out and, make sure that when they see your name pop up in their email, that they're going to open it up because it's going to be a great, solid story that they're going to want to run with. So we work with our clients on determining what are some good stories that they have to tell. And then when we package it up and send it to a reporter, we make sure that it has a really good subject line that's going to detail exactly what the story inside is about. And that it has a great image with it and a great caption. So it's really about packaging it up. We'll usually give a nice summary up top, a short paragraph or so, and then provide all the details below so that reporters like Bob, have all the information that they need. And of course, they know where to find us if they have any follow-up questions or want to do an interview with our client.
Oh, Bob, you're sitting in the editor's chair, and as material comes in, how do you apply your news judgment to decide what is a story worth telling and what is a story worth pitching in the nearest garbage can?
Well, first it has to be the subject line that draws me in. And if it gets me that far and I open it up, I hope you get my name right. I've been called Frank, I've been called Steve, I've been called Barb. I mean, you get my name right, and
accuracy matters.
yeah. And don't be informal either. I had a pitch not that long ago that started off, "Yo, Bob." I mean, unless you're my friend, even then, my friends don't say "Yo, Bob" to me. The pitch has to be coherent, and it can't be like a rambling stream of consciousness. It should be cohesive, to say the least.
Is there something in particular that makes one story possibility better than another story possibility? What is it that that a commercial operator of a business can do to create something that's going to be interesting to you as a news editor?
Well, they should know what our publication is all about. And if you're pitching something like gardening, I'm not interested in it. Not at all. So you got to get to know the product. And once you know the product, then make the pitch and focus it to that.
And Christina, when you're presenting a story for consideration, what is it exactly that you send? When you sit down with a client, you're going to prepare some paperwork, maybe some artwork or something. But what is it that you put together as a cohesive package that you're going to send into a newspaper, to a radio station, to a TV station, in the hopes of attracting attention? How do you actually physically package the story?
Bob?
Yes.
Sorry, cut out for a minute. I think I heard the question. You were talking about what do we actually present when we're pitching something?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for us, it's really about making sure that we're sending the right news to the right media outlet and then the right reporter there. As Bob mentioned, he shouldn't be receiving gardening stories as a business journal. That's much more of a consumer type story. So we look at what the story is, and then we determine whether it's just a short pitch that we're going to send along, or if it's something that's bigger news, we'll do a more formal press release. But again, we always include that summary up top so that it's respectful of the reporter's time, and that when they're looking at the email, they can see exactly what it's about. So it's looking at the right media outlets for it, the right reporters that are there, and then of course having proper timing. We've worked with some of our clients. For instance, we had a client that was Jake's Wayback Burgers. That was a hamburger client. So we did a big pitch around National Hamburger Day. So it was very timely, and we talked about the history of hamburgers, and we spotlighted one of their promotional products that they had at the time. And we got some really nice coverage out of it because, again, it was timely, it was well thought out, and it was sent to the appropriate people that, we knew would be interested in it.
Without violating any confidences or stepping over any lines of ethics, could you tell us some things that maybe clients have approached you with that you have said, no, you'll never get anywhere with this particular thing, and give us some success stories in addition to the hamburgers? And actually,
Sure.
I wonder,
Well,
cheeseburgers.
Are you getting hungry now? So we tier the news, when we're talking to our clients and they're telling us what they have going on within their organization, we're looking at it both internally from what they have going on and also what's going on externally in the world that's like breaking news that they might be able to jump on board and provide some expert commentary on. So sometimes we'll take a local story and we'll make it national news. And then sometimes we'll take a national headline and we'll localize it and pitch it that way. If they have a new product or service, we'll do a press announcement about that and go out with it. If they're a brand new business that's doing a grand opening, we'll usually do a grand opening event and then provide a media release with some grand opening photos to reporters. So it really depends on what it is. I would say the number one thing that I'm very stringent about is making sure that the facts are all accurate in there. That's just a part of being an ethical business. You don't want to send something to a reporter and then find out that it was inaccurate. So once we had a client that was really pushing us hard to get out a press release, and there was a statistic in there that I wasn't quite sure about. So we told them, you need to hold off a bit. We want to double check it and make sure that it's accurate. And it's a good thing that we did, because when we double checked, it turned out that it was not. So we were able to fix it and then send it out, properly the way that it should be. So, it's always that bit of trying to meet deadlines and get the information out there, but of course, trying to be as accurate with everything as possible.
Yeah, Christina, that is really a turnoff when something gets really sloppy or the names are wrong, or say you mentioned photos. So when photos are included, they should be high res, and the number of people in the photo should equal the same number of people who are named in the caption as well. Because oftentimes you'll have 5 people and there's 4 named, or maybe it's the opposite. There's 4 people and there's 6 named. So, but
100%, Bob. And whenever we're providing any kind of announcement to yourself or any other reporters, we always try to give really good high-res images that are going to be, print-worthy quality. And then we also provide a caption, and we always put left to right so that you know exactly which direction we're going. And then, of course, if there's 2 rows of people, front and back. And then we also number each photo and correspond it to the caption. So again, we feel like our job is to make things as easy, to use as possible, so that if it is a story that you want to run with, you have all the components right there in front of you. And then if you want to take a different angle to it, like I said, we always keep our executives available for further comment and questions.
So if I can interject, high res means high resolution, which would be the best quality in photo and other artwork. And also for our viewers, if you have any questions you'd like to ask, if you hear something that you think needs further explanation, or maybe you'd like to try to get some free advice here, you can type in your questions right below the video on the page you're looking at, whether it's on Facebook or another media. You can type in just below where the video appears. There should be a space. You can type in your questions. We will get the questions and then endeavor to answer them. So, Bob, once you get a story pitch, what is it that in your news judgment helps separate one thing from another? Now, you did mention that it has to be relevant to the audience.
Correct.
But it used to be, back in the old days of journalism, that there was a feeling that journalism is about telling people what they need to know more than what they necessarily want to know. Does that come into play, where you might get something over the transom that you think is just so overriding, or would be of such interest and such value that you'd put it in even though it gets slightly off the mark as to the target audience?
I guess that's possible. I can't really think of a good example right now, but I guess that's possible. But maybe going back to my when I mentioned if I got something concerning gardening, I would turn my nose up on it. But maybe something in there, in that gardening aspect, that might be buried in it, isn't at the top. Might be something about a gardening tool that was invented locally, or something along those lines, perhaps, where there's a human interest factor.
And along the same lines, do you see any trend or any interest these days in trying to find local angles to national stories?
Well, actually, Peter, you just wrote something. We did something on Kamala Harris, and to get the local reaction on that, and that story is actually doing very well for us. Politics is doing very well nationwide, if not around the world right now.
And Christina, when you are approached by a client who wants to pitch something, just how much influence can you bring to bear in order to get that client to accept the realities of what you have learned over the years? And you've been doing this for what, 25 years, something like that, to get stories into print, to get things on the air, versus an individual who is used to running a business and therefore is successful and therefore thinks they know everything. And your job is really just to be a lackey and do what they say.
Well, thankfully, most of our clients that hire us do so because they're looking for, some consultation and insight as to, how they should handle their PR and marketing efforts. So the majority of our clients are great with listening to, what we're giving them feedback on. And again, I feel like sometimes it really depends on whether it's a slower news day or not and what else is going on in the world, because sometimes we've sent out some stories that, we didn't suspect would get that much media coverage, and they get a ton of media coverage. And then sometimes we'll send out a story that we think we're going to get a lot of media coverage on. And, there could be a plethora of other things going on in the world, and it just doesn't get as much attention. So it really depends on what's going on with that. I was on a call with some of my PR peers, and somebody mentioned that this is now the compassion economy with everything that's going on with the pandemic. And I thought that was great, because I feel like people are really looking for more good news that's going on out there in business and in the world in general. So, one of the things that we've been doing with a lot of our clients is, showcasing some of the ways that they're giving back in the community and what they're doing. One of our clients just donated 40,000 pounds of food to help feed people in the community. And that got some really great pickup, which was great for them, as well as the organization that they partnered with. Those are the kind of things that I think are,
fantastic and win-win situations. And hopefully it inspires other businesses and organizations to do similar great things.
Bob, we have the section Good Things Happening in both the Fairfield and the Westchester papers. Bob, talk a little bit about the Good Things Happening section. And is that a way for businesses to get stories into print that actually would never see the light of day otherwise?
Oh, most certainly. A lot of pitches are for the good things. Those things that don't quite fit the certain niche of a business publication, but like promotions, things about awards, museums with their exhibits and everything like that. The happier news, if you will, does very well, and it fits in our good things section in the back of the book, and we always welcome those.
And
we love that section. We get lots of great things in there. Like you were mentioning, anything from awards to donations to promotions, new hires, anything like that. And I wanted to put in a plug for your News at Noon section because that's one of my favorite things as well. I love getting that email every day and getting an update on what's going on, in Westchester and Fairfield in the business community. And I think it's a nice, quick read. So anybody that's listening into this, if you're not a subscriber to News at Noon, I highly recommend it. It gives a good temperature pulse on what's going on. You could, read the short snippet in there, and then you can click for the full article. So I think that that's fantastic for the business community.
Thanks very much for that, Christina. And you'll mail your bill to us in the morning. And just a reminder to viewers out there, we'll try to answer your questions. If you have questions, just type them in right on your screen, right below where the video appears. There should be a space for questions. We will endeavor to answer them. Let's talk a little bit about the changing face of journalism. Of course, the Business Journal has been around for more than 50 years and is going strong. Some other media in the Westchester area is not as it used to be, not as large in terms of circulation. Certainly, we did have a local radio station here, which had a real news operation with a half dozen people on staff covering everything. That no longer exists. We still have News 12 doing some local news coverage. But what are your thoughts, on the changes that we have seen in journalism? And Bob, you've been in Westchester and Hudson Valley journalism for long enough. Give us a little background on yourself and also your thoughts on the changes you've seen.
Yeah, I actually started off as a reporter up in Catskill, up on the river, way up in Greene County. And I worked my way down the river. I was in Middletown, Times-Herald Record, and I was at Gannett for a long time before I went down to the city. But today, between the buyouts by hedge funds, newsrooms have just been decimated. And it's just a sad situation today. The few number of people that are doing so much to put out the news and who are really lovers of news. I was surprised to hear today on the radio that the Daily News is closing out its newsroom down in New York City. And all the reporters will just be working, I guess, from home or on the street. There's going to be no more newsroom for the Daily News, and that's big news.
Even Superman worked there. If you remember, they actually shot some footage at the news building for the movie Superman. And Christina, your take. I mean, you have been in this long enough and dealt with enough reporters and editors. What changes have you seen, and does this affect your ability to get coverage for your clients?
Well, at the end of the day, it's all about relationship building, like many things in the business world. So, when we formed a nice relationship with a reporter at a given publication, and then when they're no longer there, and they leave to go somewhere else, it's of course disappointing and sad for us because, we could have worked with that person for many years. So we hate to see them go. So a lot of times we'll follow them where they go, where they end up to the next publication, and then obviously start forming a relationship with who's kind of taken over the beat that they were covering before. But, when I first started out in public relations, it was a lot of times a reporter would have a specific beat. They would cover finance or they would cover education. Now, a lot of times reporters are covering multiple beats. So, you really have to, again, know which reporter, and it changes in a publication pretty often. So that's where it's important to be tuned in and make sure that, the reporter that was covering the topic that we talked to last week with them about, that they're still covering it. So a lot of that, again, is just on relationships and constantly talking to reporters. I'm a huge fan, both as a businesswoman and as a mom of 3 kids, of local media. Everybody wants to know what's going on, where they live, work, and play. I want to know what's going on in the schools, what's going on in the local community where my business is. So, I'm constantly reading and watching the news, listening to the radio for everything. being in PR, I'm obviously biased to that, but I think that it's really important to know what's going on locally where you live.
And how important is the internet in terms of local coverage? There are quite a few chat rooms in Westchester on the internet covering local things in various communities. Actually, we still have plenty of weekly papers, the handouts, the used to be called controlled circulation papers that are free. You can pick them up in newspaper boxes on street corners in White Plains, in Yonkers, and so forth. But, so where does that fit in, and where does the internet fit in terms of A, the level of news that people are able to get, and B, the ability of a business to tell its story? Bob, you want to start with that?
Well, since we rehabbed our website last year, we have gained a lot more readers online than I would have never have imagined such a thing. But everybody is getting their news either on it's either the TV, the radio, or the internet. And of course, you can get the internet right on your smartphone. So everything is handy. Everything is there. It's not just a 24-hour news cycle. It's 24 hours of living the news, actually. So it's been great for us.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, you get your up-to-the-minute stories on there, which I think is fantastic, being able to get the latest news on any item that's happening. I think that for us, from a deadline perspective, we have a lot shorter time period to get back to a reporter now. It used to be, hey, we have until tomorrow to get back to the reporter. Now it's like, we have 15 minutes. What's your comment? So that's changed a lot. Also, on the side of our clients, when the internet and online stories and digital stories first started coming out, I remember that clients didn't necessarily count it as news coverage if they were included in the digital version of the publication instead of print. They wanted to be there in print and have something tangible in front of them that they could hold on to. With SEO and everything with digital marketing being so important now, they want that link. They want that link back to their website. They want the mention online. They want to know that it's going to live forever in cyberspace. So that's changed quite a bit with how much clients really love getting that online coverage now. And even if it's in print, they love that it's in print and also digital. And whether you're talking about broadcast media coverage, same thing. If it runs on a broadcast media outlet and they also get included on the broadcast outlet's online site, that makes them extra happy.
It used to be that Marshall McLuhan said the medium is the message. Now, is the message, and who cares what the medium is? Bob, you're shaking your head.
Well, who cares what the medium is? Yeah, that's probably true, especially among younger people like millennials who get their news, who've never really picked up a newspaper before or a magazine, perhaps. And everything is coming, like I mentioned before, they're just grabbing their smartphones and getting everything right there. And
Dana, any thoughts on that?
I mean, we go after so many different channels with our clients. So media coverage is one important area. We also do a lot of direct stuff. So we're talking about social media, their website, e-blasts. So, we look at the news and we determine which channels are the most appropriate venues to distribute it towards. If it's something that's important news for the organization, but not necessarily important news for the community at large, sometimes it makes more sense for it to be a web article on their website, do a social media post, send it out in their e-blast, and do it in more of their own channels. Once you get to the next level up of news, then we start doing a pitch to the publications that make sense. And then if it's something major, that's when we do a much broader distribution. So again, we look at what type of news tier each individual story is, or if there's a specific audience that they're trying to reach.
Okay. Just another reminder that we will endeavor to answer questions. You can type in your questions right below where the video appears on your screen. And can we take the first question that we have lined up in the queue? And it says, how do you balance corporate business news with small business news in the business journals? At Hudco and Dobbs Ferry, we have so many solopreneurs. I guess that's a take on entrepreneurs as members, and we'd love to know what type of business news you would want to know about. Well, Bob, that's as direct a question for you as I can imagine.
Well, to be honest, I have never heard of your organization before and would welcome a press release, a phone call, email me at westfair.com, and I would be more than happy to discuss any type of articles with you.
You know, that's one of the things that we do is we help uncover some news that clients might not even be aware of. I mean, my head is constantly churning with like, hey, what could be great news that we can get out there for our clients? Once I was watching my daughter in her gymnastics studio, and it was right around when Hurricane Sandy had hit. They had done a toy drive and they had tons and tons of toys. And so I was up there watching my daughter, and all of a sudden I looked down and I saw them bagging all of these toys. So I ran down there immediately with my PR hat on and I said, oh my God, that's fabulous that you got so many of these toys in your toy drive. Have you, shared this information yet? Or did you take any photos? So I made them unpack everything. We got their team, positioned them in front of it, got some good photos, and distributed that out, to the media. And I think we got them 5 articles on it, which was fantastic. Again, it's great coverage for them. And it's also inspiring that hopefully other businesses saw them giving back and were inspired to do the same to help the community.
I think you've just disclosed a trade secret as to how you operate in order to get a story done. But, we've heard a lot about something called fake news. Now to what extent is there a moral or ethical judgment that you have to make, Christina, when you're preparing something for a client so that you do not end up being a purveyor of something that's fake?
Well, we always operate very ethically, and we wouldn't take on a client that would expect us to behave otherwise. That's one of the first things that we do during our intro meeting with clients is we explain how we operate. We talk to them about what is newsworthy and what's not. When we talk about what's newsworthy, we talk about everything from new products and services to milestone anniversary celebrations. We've had quite a few clients that have celebrated 50 years or 100 years in business, which is always a great sustainability story. How they give back, what they're doing, any new hires that they have. Those are all things that are newsworthy and that they want to get out there. But we also explain to them the flip side of what's not newsworthy. And, that's anything that's going to be too self-serving and sound more like an advertisement. And also anything that's, not going to be timely. A lot of times we'll tell them, that they've missed the boat if they take too long on getting back to us on something, because the news cycle, as you know, changes quite rapidly. So if we ask them for information on something and they don't provide it, then all of a sudden they've missed the boat on that. And then we're on to the next story. But, we try to stay away from anything that doesn't feel right. If it doesn't feel right to me, I can't pitch that news out to anybody else. So it has to pass the Christina test.
And then Bob, when you get it, it has to pass the Bob test. So what is it that goes into the Bob test? Is it possible to gain some insights as to how news judgment works?
Boy, that's how does news judgment work? Get into my head.
I'm going to end up paying for asking that, but go ahead. See if you can answer.
I guess it starts with the pitch itself, and then you have to vet it. You have to vet everything. I recall a story that was pitched to us, it's probably about 10 years ago now. And the reporter it was a young reporter. He started writing up the story, and something just struck me as just odd. And I started looking it up, and it was difficult back then because there wasn't really a strong internet 10 years ago. So long story short was that this person who was being touted as a philanthropist and this and that. He was more of a con artist than a philanthropist.
Definitely not something you want to put in a headline.
No.
Krista, I've been told by our producer that we have a question that's directed at you. So let's take a look at that. So, what database system do you use to keep track of journalists, and which email product do you use to send your releases? And do you tend to prefer a certain day of the week and time of day to send them out? Oh, you're being asked for trade secrets here.
That was a lot of good questions. As far as our database, so we use Cision. That's our database that we use right now, which we can, look into and pull up different reporters from different demographics and everything else. But a lot of what we do is very much hands-on research that we look at, for instance, if we're doing a breast cancer pitch, we'll look at who covered breast cancer last year, which media outlets, and then we'll outreach to them with enough time to introduce our story source to them if it's a doctor or a surgeon that specializes in that area, and hope that they'll be working on a story this year and include us in it. So some of it's just good old-fashioned research that we do when we're looking at it, and it has to be media lists, like any database, have to be updated very frequently, which is why something like Cision is great, because reporters do move around quite a bit, and you want to make sure that your list is appropriate, because if you have bad contacts in there, when you're sending out your press release, it's not going to go to the right people, and you're going to get bounce backs, and you're not going to get the coverage that you're looking for. So that's with the database. What was the other question, Peter?
Let's take a look at that on screen again, if we can. No.
I know there were multiple parts to it.
The other part, I want to know about the database and about how you distribute the releases. So
we try not to mass distribute them. We try not to mass distribute them because as Bob was talking about before, that he wants people to get his name right. I'm sure he also doesn't want to get an email that he knows was obviously sent out to a million other people. So if it's like a press release and it's major news, that's something that's going to go out, like I said, broad distribution. But if it's a media pitch, we hand pitch that to reporters, and we try to look at what's the most important news outlet for that news to run in. And we'll reach out to, one or two non-competing publications for it. And in the pitch, we'll explain to the reporter why we're sending them this story, why we think that they're the appropriate, news outlet and reporter that we're outreaching to. So again, you want to personalize it and show, hey, we saw that you wrote a story about this 2 months ago. Here's a great update for you on it. So that would be something that we would do. And then I think there was something in there about what days of the week. So we tend to get good news out on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, sometimes Thursdays. Fridays at 4:00 has always, in my 25 years, been the day that you bury the news, shall we say. So if you're trying to... This was back from my corporate days, and also, working at PR agencies and through Buzz Creators. So we would never send out a press release with good news on a Friday at 4:00. But if you're trying to bury news, you would probably do so then. But good news and happy news should go out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and sometimes Thursday. You have to know the reporter's deadlines. Like, I know that the Business Journal has their deadline on Wednesdays. So, you have to take that into consideration when you're sending pitches, or especially when you're inviting reporters to events. I think there was one other question in there that I might have missed, or did I cover off on everything?
I think that covered all the bases on that question. We do have another one waiting, and this one is directed at Bob, and it says, as a PR practitioner, it sounds like one of your competitors, Christine.
Peers, not competitors.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'll try to be politically polite, which is like politically correct. I often reach out by phone prior to sending along the pitch package with a heads up. It seems to work well and allow my message to rise above some of the others. Are you amiable to that tactic, Bob? Are you?
Not really, because I'm so busy. I sort of prefer to see the email first, and then you can follow it up with a phone call. generally don't prefer the phone call first. I'd rather see what the subject is about.
So
I think that's the case with most reporters.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a business person out there who's thinking of trying to get the story told and they want to try to do it on their own, Bob, is there any particular advice as to how to get to you, or is it just a matter of to keep sending emails and keep trying on the phone or something to try to get through?
Emails would be the best way to get through to me. And I might suggest to them to contact a PR agency in the county to help them along.
I think a lot of it's in the follow-up too. You know, I always talk to my team about following up maybe once or twice, because like anybody, reporters are busy and sometimes they saw your email and they might be interested in contacting you, but then they forget. So if you give them one or two reminders and follow-ups, hopefully you agree, Bob, that that's fine. But I always tell everybody not to be too aggressive with your follow-up and not to annoy a reporter. You don't want to follow up 6 times on the same media pitch. If you haven't heard from them, they're probably not interested at that point, and you should come up with a different story.
That's correct.
All right. As we prepare to wrap this up, Christina, what thoughts do you have that a viewer who is interested in getting their business story out, getting the public to hear about their business, should do? What would be the first step that they should take to prepare to tell their story?
Yeah. When a new client comes to us, we want to make sure first that they're ready for the spotlight on their organization. So we look at their website and make sure that it is user-friendly, has good information, because for most things, that's going to be the call to action, is driving people to your website for more information. And that's where the reporters are going to go as well. Usually when we send a pitch, it's going to percolate their interest in your organization. They're going to go check it out, check out your website. So you want to make sure that that's going to represent you well. And also that you have clearly defined, your corporate messages of what it is that you want to get out there quickly. So I would end with saying that these are difficult times for a lot of businesses going through this crisis and pandemic right now. So, they really want to get their business spotlighted as much as possible, because it's kind of like the lotto. If you're not in it, you can't win it. And it's being in that circle of consideration for your business. For example, if you're a catering hall and I'm planning a party for my daughter, 3 different places are going to pop into my head where I'm thinking of having that party. And if you're not one of those, that's a missed business opportunity for you. So you want to make sure that you have that, awareness in people's head of your business, so that either if they need it or if somebody asks them for a recommendation, you're top of mind with them. So, the media outreach that we've been talking about is one great way to do that, because if people are reading about you, then they're thinking about you and they're thinking about your products and services. And that's really helpful for businesses these days, again, to be in the spotlight and have people know about them, because you could be a great business, but if people aren't aware that you exist, how are they going to buy your products and services?
And Bob, for you as the decision maker who says, this goes in the paper, this doesn't go in the paper, this story goes online, this doesn't go online, what advice would you have for a business that wants to tell its story?
Approach me as a friend. Don't come in, coming in 100 miles an hour, trying to be really forceful, trying to be coming across too hard. Just take it easy, take a breath, make the pitch, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Are you saying that things have merit tend to speak for themselves?
Yes.
In a word. Hey, Bob, thanks very much for doing this. Bob Rizzuto, Managing Editor of WestFair Communications, and Christina Ray, President of Buzz Creators, based in Valhalla. Thank you very much for this. And we also want to thank Westchester County Association's Platinum Partners. And I'm Peter Katz from WestFair Communications, publisher of the Westchester County and Fairfield County Business Journals, WAG Magazine, and a host of electronic newsletters, especially News at Noon. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.